and welcome back to the Strong Collectors Podcast. I'm Dakota, and I have my co-host with me, as always, Jordan. And today it's time to take a trip down memory lane and talk about the old ToyBiz figures and what updates we would like to see from those old figures. Some of them we've never gotten before. Some of them we've gotten versions of an update, but not quite the version that we're looking for. So I think to start out, we'll do some of our previous Marvel Legends, those ToyBiz ones that we've had for quite some time, some of our favorites, something a little bit more nostalgic instead of a What You Got segment, get into some of the updates, and then what we want to see Hasbro make. So, Jordan, do you want to lead us off with a trip down your memory lane?
Yes. I'm trying to remember, I know in my local Walmart in Oskaloosa, they first got the Spider-Man Classic line, where they had Man-Spider and Spider-Man Symbiote, all that. And probably one of the first ones I got was this Spider-Man. I would say it's McFarlane-esque, right? Mm-hmm. It was kind of that 90s style. But as you can see, you see me holding them up on YouTube. You kind of move your arm slightly, and this whole lower half wiggles around. I have another one over here that is a less used version. So he kind of has a better paint job. It hasn't been rubbed away. But I remember getting this one and thinking he was pretty cool. Because, I think those were kind of the first toys I got that were in the 6-inch scale. And they just were like, oh, they're not this big. You can actually pose them and move them around. And that was kind of the beginning for me. I don't know the first, regular wave. I might be Iron Man, maybe, from Series 1. Or Hulk. But I never had Toad or Cap as a kid. So that was the beginning of my collector origin story, so to speak. And I think those are just really cool figures to see because they were just different.
Does your Spider-Man Classics have ball joint ankles? Or not ankles, but ball joint hips? Because it didn't look like it from what you were showing.
Mm-mm. I'll hold them up, but...
Yeah, that's more like what you would see in a Legend today, which is surprising that they would have started with that and then switched to ball joints, because I've got quite a few out here around me, behind me. Every single one of them has ball joint hips. So I'm surprised that they switched to that. I know it can sometimes give you better posability, but it just doesn't look as good as that Spider-Man. So interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll go down my first. I actually do still have my very first Marvel Legends I've ever gotten. So the first two, I remember going to the store. It was I think it was right after my birthday or something, and my uncle was telling me to pick out a birthday present, and I picked out these two Marvel Legends. He second guessed me, was like, "Oh, are you sure you want those two?" Because one of them is Mr. Fantastic. He comes with the big hand and the hammer hand. I don't know if he just thought that those were weird and oh, you sure you want those weird characters? Because I guess it wasn't like Spider-Man or Captain America, like the popular figures at the time. But I knew who the characters were. I was super excited, and 20 some years later, here we are, still playing with toys. The other one, which is still one of my favorites, is the ToyBiz Colossus. This one got played with almost every time I played with action figures. Colossus is one of my favorite characters from the books, the cartoons. So I liked having him. He's a little bit bigger. The downside to Colossus, however, is he's got a super loose torso joint, so you can't really stand him up super well now. You got to balance him. And that's kind of the downfall of a lot of the ToyBiz figures, is if they were played with, they're probably pretty loose now. Even just if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see behind me, I've got a lot of the old ToyBiz figures displayed, and I'm not going to be surprised if as we go through this podcast, one of them takes a tumble. So Onslaught's already fallen off the shelf before we recorded. But
my money's on Onslaught falling.
Yeah, which reminds me, I should probably slide my Year 2 Batman out of the danger zone if he does fall. It's a heavy one to hit. But so now, let's see. I think that was it for the memory lane there. But now let's get into some of the updates that we've actually seen Hasbro make. So one of the very early ToyBiz figures and a very early Hasbro, like one of the first ones that Hasbro made. I pulled this Silver Surfer off of Goliath a few times. So this Silver Surfer and the ToyBiz Silver Surfer look almost identical because Hasbro just totally reissued the exact same figure minus the magnets in the ToyBiz Silver Surfer's feet. So this one, the ToyBiz, you can actually stick him to his board anywhere you want to. Feet are magnets. That was a pretty cool feature. I know that's one of your favorite features of the ToyBiz era stuff.
Yeah,
he's got more of a
kind of maybe seems like kind of a gimmick, but I think it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it does seem gimmicky, but this actually makes sense to make it this way, where the Hasbro, and I'm assuming this is Hasbro because I think this was after they switched companies, but this one has the pegged in feet on the board, which I like because it's more sturdy. Like you could fly this one around the house and it's not going to fall off of his feet, where the other one, if he gets into some turbulence, he might drop the board. But old one has a little bit more of a silvery chrome look. New one's a little bit more, I don't know, like matte silver. Both cool figures, but not really a big difference. Where you start to see some of those differences, I've got the ToyBiz Ant-Man from the Giant Man wave, and then I've got the retro Ant-Man. And this is one that, I mean, it's different, more so than that because you've got different joints. The old ToyBiz one has more articulated hands and toes and ball joint hips, like I was mentioning. This one's still pretty tight, other than his head is a little bit loose. The helmet on the ToyBiz is a little bit bigger. I feel like I'm just realizing that I just don't like the retro Pizza Spider-Man body.
Yeah, I never really have, man.
Yeah, these two are different, but similar enough that you could still have the ToyBiz Ant-Man on your shelf and it would still look really good. Like I think that's one of the better versions of Hasbro that you can kind of see the comparison where ToyBiz stands up to the new one. Getting into a little bit more drastic changes, we'll take the new Juggernaut, which looks good. Proportions are well done. And then we take the ToyBiz Juggernaut, where if you've ever seen this figure before, you know how absurdly long his arms are. Like his fingers come down past where his boots start, like almost to his ankles. Seems super weird. I know we were just talking about this before we started recording. When we were kids, we thought this was super cool. I still think it's a good figure. The proportions are just odd. I really like that you can take the helmet off of the ToyBiz Juggernaut. You can swap heads on the Hasbro Marvel Legend, but I like the removable aspect of the old one. It still holds up pretty well, but you can't really get him in those poses because, like I said, the joints start to get a little bit loose, and you're not going to get him in a charging pose on one foot where you can actually balance a Hasbro Marvel Legend like that. Another pretty big difference is the ToyBiz Rhino. This one's a Spider-Man Classics where I'm holding him and he just feels hollow. There's no weight to him. Very little posability, which is kind of the time. Like, the Man Spider didn't move very much. You know, Toad doesn't really move a ton. But you've got some articulation, but it's not a huge Rhino. Like, I want my Rhino to be bigger than Spider-Man. This one's barely bigger than Spider-Man. Bring in Retro Rhino that we had on the last podcast. It's a huge difference. You can hear Jordan laugh because he knows it's true.
No, it's just the other one just looks like garbage compared to the other one.
Careful, Jordan. I might try to sell this Rhino. So.
Oh, all right.
It's a great... Yeah, sell it before this one airs.
Air.
But I will say the one saving grace that this Rhino has is it comes with a base, which is super cool. It's got Broadway signs sculpted into it, a fire hydrant, which is kind of super small. You've got a sculpted in mailbox, bricks,
Can
bars,
I see the
pipes.
fire hydrant?
Yeah, so that's the fire hydrant next to my finger. It's
Wow,
about the size of my thumbnail. Just
they were still figuring out proportions in those days.
That's true. Which it's not terrible. They could do better, but
maybe
I still
they're
think
trying to
it's a
give
cool base.
perspective, like it's further away.
Yeah, that could be doing a little forced perspective, make you think that your Rhino's a little bit bigger too.
Because he needs it.
Yeah. So I will say that was one of the really cool aspects of ToyBiz, that they came here. I still have my Goliath in package. They came with a comic book, so you would get like a key issue of that figure, get to know about them. If you are like me, you got to start growing your comic book collection. That's how I started. If you're like Jordan, it's a one and done issue. You toss it out with the packaging. But
okay,
kind of
no one explained to me in my house that comic books were things you kept. I thought they were like newspapers. You just read them and that's it.
Thank goodness you have learned now.
Now I still do that when I get back from the comic store. That was
you
fun.
Have them pull you. They pull your issues. You read them. You toss them.
Sometimes I throw them away in the store.
Oh, insults. You can also see on the back, they would come with kind of the power rankings, which I thought was pretty cool. I still have like almost all of my like cardboard backs to these, so you can go back and see like,
and they had a little blurb about them, didn't they? Like a little bio thing?
Much more. So like this is like a whole paragraph of Goliath, where if I like look at the retro, or not the retro, but the VHS Wolverine or any of the newer Hasbro, you're going to get like 2 sentences of like, oh, Wolverine uses adamantium claws to slash through villainy. This one, you're going to get like a full read up, or at least more in depth. Right. You're going to get backstory, weight, height, eye color, hair color, all that stuff. A lot more happening there. You'd usually get a base with everything until they started doing the Build-A-Figure pieces, but even their Build-A-Figure pieces were ginormous. Like you're going to get twice the size of a Build-A-Figure from ToyBiz that you are from Hasbro. And then the last comparison
that is pretty insane that Galactus was a Build-A-Figure.
Yeah.
Like, Hasbro has never done anything like that for a Build-A-Figure.
I mean, and to start it out too, like they went right out of the gates big, which makes sense because if they're trying to make a big character, like who's the biggest character to make, Galactus makes sense. Then they made the Sentinel. Sentinel was just as big, super cool. Apocalypse, Onslaught, they started to decline there. They kept going down with Mojo, which not I don't think as bad as Onslaught, but definitely not to the same bar as Apocalypse, Sentinel, and Galactus. And then you keep going down, you get MODOK, probably the worst Build-A-Figure that ToyBiz did. But then you also had Giant Man, which is one of the, like, I put that in the same list as the Sentinel, Apocalypse, and Galactus, which is that's my grail to find. So the last comparison I have for you, though, is the side-by-side of Mr. Sinister. So we've got the Sentinel Wave Mr. Sinister from ToyBiz. He's, I don't know, his proportions make him look like he would be 8 feet tall. He's got just kind of a super tall
neck
collar
thing.
And then his cape is, like, if you know Mr. Sinister, he's kind of got this weird, like his cape has been through a shredder. So it's kind of flimsy.
The ToyBiz one's cape, it looks like those things at the airport to keep your bags.
Right.
You know, where they
send it through the scanner.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Where the other one looks like it's actually designed that way.
Right. So like the newer one, it still kind of has that like cape through the shredder look, but it's a lot thicker, so it's more cape looking instead of just a bunch of strings hanging off of his back. But I mean, I will say, like, even with that being said, like, looking back at like what toys I would pull out to play with, because I had quite a few, so you couldn't play with all of them at the same time. Mr. Sinister was one that got pulled out almost every time to get played with. He was one of my favorites. I was skeptical about the new Mr. Sinister. I was like, what's the point? I've got this one. It's cool. I think that's mostly nostalgia talking with the old one, because side by side, it's no doubt that the new one is much improved. Yeah, I know you can kind of see some more behind me. I've got ToyBiz Bishop over here, Hasbro Bishop up there, Hulkbuster over here. Pulled out the Hulkbuster on the podcast last time, so lots of things to compare side by side. There's been a lot of updates. But now, Jordan, let's talk about what we think we should see in updates from Hasbro and what they should be doing. So I'll start off with one that we've mentioned several times now, and that's going to be the Mandarin. So Mandarin came out in the face-off against Iron Man and also a variant against War Machine. Since then, we haven't had a Mandarin. I think maybe we've had the MCU Mandarin, right?
Yeah.
Trevor. But that's not really...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Spoiler. It's not really Mandarin. So I think people are really wanting to get that, like, because he's one of the main Iron Man villains, especially from the animated series. So, like we mentioned before, I think now that they have the retro Iron Man, like, card back and everything, I think that's going to be one that we definitely see. If not this year, I'd almost guarantee by next year we have that at least announced.
Yeah. I would definitely see that. I think I was on the fence until you were talking about them doing the figures from the 90s show. So I could see that. I think people, I don't know. I mean, I know he's been like updated in the comics just because I think there were some like, how are we depicting this character stuff? So I don't know. I would just be curious if they would bring back like that iconic Mandarin look, but yeah, I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're gonna have to give us Fin Fang Foom then.
That's true. I mean, I think that's definitely towards the top of the list of what we would see in a upcoming HasLab.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only HasLabs I think I would consider getting, but anyway. You have a reveal for, or not a reveal, but a update you'd like to see, Jordan?
An exclusive figure just announced. Well, no. What I would like to see is the Doombot get updated. So the Doombot we had, I want to say it was one of those early waves, like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I was going to say 2, maybe.
Maybe. But it was a variant for the regular Doctor Doom. Right? Because then they flipped it. Yeah, so it was the regular. Right. So he just had like a faceplate that he looked like Doom, and then you pulled it off, and he has this like Terminator type kind of look to him. So I always thought that was cool. I don't even think I had him as a kid, but since then I have tracked down like 10 plus. So that's been fun. But there's different grades of Doombots in the comics. Like they have some that are more like foot soldiers, and then these ones that look like Doom are more like the lieutenants. And then there's like the heavy ones that are bigger and probably got some guns or cannons for hands, so that would be cool. And Dakota, if you've ever been to Islands of Adventure, Dakota once described it as the Doctor Dooms in the queue as you're going through the line. So something like that I think would be really cool. At that point, I think I'm just wanting like a Doctor Doom castle playset, which I'd be all over that. Give me like a big old throne, a throne room, a couple Doombots.
Yeah, I mean that ToyBiz Doctor Doom came with like a castle turret half round thing that he stood behind. So maybe if you collected a few of those, maybe get a McFarlane Lex Luthor throne. I think that blue one comes with it. You'd be on your way, but yeah, maybe that'll be the next HasLab as a Doctor Doom castle room diorama set.
I love that. So any kind of Doombot, I'm wanting to see. So bring him on.
Yeah, I would love to see that as an army builder. I'd definitely pick up a couple. I have one Doctor Doom still in box. I haven't taken out the retro yet, but yeah, I would definitely get some Doombots for him. And then I have 2 updates from the same wave. So I've got one of them here with me, and then Jordan, I know you used to have one of them, but he has since moved on to a new home. But I would like to see an update, or at least I think Hasbro could make quite a bit of money on an update of a Luke Cage, like in his classic look. I know we've gotten some MCU. I don't know if it really counts as MCU, but like the Netflix version of Luke Cage and kind of the like yellow t-shirt version. But I want to see like that old school, like Power Man and Iron Fist.
The deep V-neck.
Yep, with his like silver headband. I think that would be a cool one. I think a lot of people are wanting that. They want to have that like classic look for him. So I'm surprised Hasbro hasn't done it yet. But I think we'll probably get that. I mean, he's got to be coming at some point. So that was he's from the Mojo Wave. Also from the Mojo Wave, I would like to see an updated version of the Mach 1 Iron Man. So, I mean, as far as ToyBiz goes, this makes sense for a Mach 1 Iron Man. He's kind of more clunky, boxy, not quite as like human looking as an updated Iron Man would be. So if you have the ToyBiz one, it works on your shelf. But I would be interested to see how Hasbro makes a series, or not a series, but a Mach 1 Iron Man. This one, his faceplate comes off. I would be pretty shocked if Hasbro gave us that. They would probably just give us a swappable head, which is probably fine because the Tony Stark head under there is pretty small. I know you like to laugh at the small Tony Stark heads, especially on the Hulkbuster. But I think that would be a good update, and I think one that, I mean, they always want to give us a new Iron Man, so why not give us a Mach 1 Iron Man? That's what I say.
That's what's up. And then I have a World War II Baron Zemo. So this one was the Mojo Wave. Instead of like the tight fitting, I've got the updated Zemo. Instead of like a tight fitting purple ski mask, it's kind of more like a bag on his head. Which I remember reading that comic as a kid and finding out that the reason he hates Captain America is because he had a tank of this super adhesive called like Adhesive X. And Captain America was fighting Baron Zemo and shattered the tube, and the Adhesive X got on Baron Zemo. And it like super glued his mask to his head forever. So then after that he's like, I hate you, Captain America. Which, I don't know, that kind of endeared me to that character for some reason. So I had him, but he's another one that today I would never think one of those wouldn't have the Colossus type, like super loose abs, where he just wiggles back and forth just because that happened to mine, and I think I've maybe seen other ones too.
I had
Did
one
that
that
happen to
happened
yours
to
or
it too.
no? Yeah.
Yep.
So, but he had like the little scepter thing that was kind of cool. So I think he'd go well with your, like, if you have an Invaders team you're trying to make, you know, you got your retro. And then we talked about a Baron von Strucker, which I'm trying to remember. Is he alive in both the old and new timelines? Like, is he just from World War II, or is he from the modern day?
I thought he was also in the modern day. I thought.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't really read a ton with him in it at all. I mean, I know he was in the MCU for a little bit, or like maybe just a scene.
Yeah. Yeah, so I also think he'd be a cool one. I know he was previously in, what was it, the Face Off pack with Cap?
Yep.
Where he was kind of in more of like a battle suit looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I just recently had that one, and that was another one with really weird proportions where he was like permanently bow-legged, and his legs were as long as the rest of the figure, so it looked pretty goofy. So it could definitely use a tune-up for sure.
yeah.
All right, so then getting into another one that I'd like to see, pull it back off the shelf again. I think we should get an update from Hasbro of the Goliath from, what is this, Series 4? So this was a chase figure almost. Like, it's not really a part of the wave, because like if you look at the back and it shows you all the wave mates, he's not one of them. So it's kind of a little bit more of a rare figure. But it comes with the little Ant-Man and a little Wasp, both articulated, which I think is cool. So it's
And the Ant-Man's helmet comes off.
Does it really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Sculpt. I don't know. That's pretty impressive.
Now, see, if you want to call that a 3-pack, I say you get away with it. If you want to call something a 4-pack with something that just its head moves side to side and otherwise it's a statue, I think you're ripping me off. You know? Just saying. Mojo box set. Give me a break.
I was about to say, not directed at anyone in particular, but that would be frustrating.
That would be frustrating. But yeah, I mean, like we said with Fin Fang Foom, I think Goliath / Giant Man is kind of towards the top of the list of what I think people are expecting for a future HasLab. So I could see almost this like package of a Goliath figure with a small Ant-Man and a small Wasp being tiers to a Giant Man. So like we got a big Giant Man, we got a slightly smaller Goliath, and then we get small Wasp and Ant-Man figures. So that's kind of where I would expect that to come from. I don't really know that Hasbro could do a very good job with it otherwise, just because it's kind of that bigger figure that their Build-A-Figures aren't really that same size. Like their Build-A-Figures are like Juggernaut size, and I'd want him to be taller than Juggernaut. I guess maybe if he was on the same scale as like the Hulkbuster, but even that, like I'd rather him be on the same scale as like the ToyBiz Giant Man. But maybe I'm just crazy. But I think that would be a cool update.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially to get those small figures with him would be cool. Because I know we got the like little Ant-Man and little Wasp from the retros, but those aren't articulated. Those are more like the like Yellow Jacket that came with Wonder Man, where it's just kind of a statue. So I'll throw it back to you, Jordan.
All right. So I was thinking it'd be cool to see a comic Abomination. Now I know we've gotten the Build-A-Figure, and then we got the comic Build-A-Figure, or the game Build-A-Figure, and there's also the SDCC. Did you say you have that one?
Yep. So I've got the Gamerverse, where he's got more of like the, I don't know, elf ears and the spikes. And then I've also got the SDCC, I think it's the Raft set, where this one is a little bit, I mean, this one's probably supposed to be the comic book version, but I kind of agree with Jordan where it's good, but it's just not quite the Abomination I want. Like it's got the fish ears, like the fin ears.
He's got that weird like head neck thing going on where it looks like a separate piece, like super clearly.
Right. Yeah, the neck part seems like it should separate, but it doesn't. Mine also has a little bit of a loose neck, so it doesn't stay up very well. His torso is also pretty loose, like in between the ratchets. I was supposed to get a little bit of a refund from the guy that sold it to me, but he just kind of ghosted me, and I was like, it's not really worth it. But yeah, it's not great, but it's not terrible. I like the colors on him, but it's just... So I've got the ToyBiz one back here with me as well. And this one is probably my favorite Abomination that we have so far. I like the size of him. I mean, he could be a little bit better articulated, but I mean, comparing him to the SDCC class or SDCC exclusive one, they're pretty similar. Maybe you get a little bit more articulation out of the SDCC, but...
Yeah, I like the ToyBiz on this one.
Yeah, I think I do too.
So that could be cool. Just kind of an update, maybe a mix between those two. And then I've always wanted to see, I think it was maybe through you always checking out the ToyBiz Destroyer,
Mm-hmm.
which was the Thor Buster variant, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we never had him growing up.
Not yet.
Or did you
but
have?
I have him on the way right now.
That's right.
I just purchased him yesterday.
Right. So I've always kept my eyes peeled for him, just because you said he was cool. I do think he looks cool, but I think it would be interesting if Hasbro did an update. I don't know if that would be a Build-A-Figure or a Deluxe.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see Hasbro doing a good Build-A-Figure of him.
I mean, that one seems like it'd be kind of hard to screw up.
I agree.
So, it would be cool as if you got like an extra head, though, that had like the laser coming out of it.
Yes. Because I know we got the Marvel Select did a Destroyer where it had the alternate head was just an Odin, which I guess I've never read that storyline where Odin wears the Destroyer armor, but I don't really, if I have an Odin, I don't want my Odin to be the Destroyer. I want my Odin to be like a King Odin, and I want my Destroyer to be a Destroyer. And like you said, it'd be way cooler to get, Hasbro's not going to give us this, but like you said, like an actual blast effect coming out that you could like port onto an open mask would be super cool. Hasbro maybe just give us like an opening mask with like kind of a fiery effect inside of it.
Like
I could
a
see
little smolder.
Right. Yes. But yeah, I think that'll be cool because I do like that Thor Buster Iron Man. That was another one that got pulled out pretty often as a kid to be played with. The Thor Buster, the faceplate comes off and it's got a Tony Stark head in there that you'd probably laugh at. But I don't think that the Destroyer has the head that pops off, which is kind of surprising to me that they would resculpt the same head, or maybe they just permanently glue it on there. I'll have to see it when I get it. Maybe the faceplate does come off because I haven't.
So maybe there's just a Tony Stark head under there.
That is one of the more rare figures that I haven't seen anyone have or display too often. So, yeah, I'm not sure how that one really works, but excited to get him, and I would like to see an update. So,
yeah, would you like to take us into the next few?
Yeah, so that was 2 from the Onslaught Build-A-Figure wave. I'll take us into the next 2 from the Sentinel Build-A-Figure wave that I want. So I've got both of these here with me. I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast that I want to see an updated Black Panther with his like big black cape and then his gold claws, gold belt, gold accents to the cape. I think this one's a super cool figure. This is my Black Panther that I display with right now. I think it's pretty iconic, like that costume on the cover of the Black Panther is one that a lot of people recognize, so I could definitely see Hasbro giving us this. I imagine it would be pretty well done, and one I would definitely pick up. I know you've said you would also be interested in a Black Panther like that.
Yeah.
I could see that one coming. Maybe not in the near future, but maybe if the hype of the new movie kind of builds Black Panther up a little bit more, maybe we get to see some more Black Panther figures.
And make a good Walgreens exclusive.
That's true. I could actually see that being a Walgreens exclusive, even though I don't like the idea of it.
I know.
That makes a lot of sense. The next one I would like to see, and I know a lot of people put this on their list of what they want Hasbro to do, is an updated Angel with the feather wings. So we've gotten several Hasbro metal winged Angels. We've gotten we got the Deluxe, we got the Hit Monkey Wave, and we got the X-Force 3-pack. But we've never gotten another Angel with feather wings. Now, this Angel I really like how big his wings are. You know me, I like cannons for hands, and I like wings. So this was another one that this would get played with pretty often, although it was always kind of hard to use the wings because they're pretty heavy. If you turn them upside down, they fall down. So I would sometimes like take it off and act like he had a jetpack on, or sometimes I would use him as my Star Fox. Firefox? No, yeah, Star Fox.
That's something. And his brother, Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Their enemy, Google Chrome.
Exactly. Yeah, this one, a lot of people have been asking for. I see it like almost anytime anyone ever asks, like, "Oh, what figures do you guys want to see Hasbro remake?" They want an angel with wings, with the feather wings. This one is also hard to display because with the giant wings, he's so top heavy. I'd like to see how Hasbro would kind of do that to make him not so, or just to make him more posable. And maybe that's why they haven't done that, is because they haven't figured out that quite yet. But I mean, even then, just give us a display stand with him and call it good. But they had a variant of I have the maroon reddish one. They also have a blue version. I don't necessarily have a preference on which one Hasbro wants to give us, but as long as he's got feather wings, I'll take him. I could see him doing more of like a classic.
Made with real feathers.
Yes. A down action figure.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I could see them giving us like a first appearance X-Men where they give us like that first class team.
Yes, you read my mind.
Yes. All right, you got us for the next one?
Yeah, so these are two characters that would kind of have the phasing, semi-translucent effect, which I think would be Wonder Man and Vision. As a kid, I do remember seeing, Dakota's holding up the two Wonder Man figures. One is obviously regular, the other one's like purple with the red highlights. He is a little transparent. If you shine the light, Dakota's got the light going. You really want to tune into YouTube for this one. Oh, look at that. So he kind of glows a little bit with the light. It's not as obvious for me, I think, as Vision, where you can totally kind of see like the inner joints and connecting pieces. I never had that Vision. I had the regular one, but I do remember thinking the phasing one looked kind of cool. But I think he was kind of harder to track down.
Yeah, I haven't really seen that in too many collections. I think I've seen it sold once in the groups, and that's probably it. The purple Wonder Man's a little bit more common, but that phasing Vision, I've only seen like just pictures of the internet that it exists. I haven't seen anyone with it other than that one time. Go ahead.
What we were talking about earlier was that idea of them not necessarily doing it like the newer Invisible Woman, where you can like see all of the pieces, and like that kind of takes away from the illusion, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think, you kind of, so almost that more like it's sculpted, painted, but it's not, but it is translucent, but not just like, oh, we made the pieces see-through. So,
yeah.
I'm not sure what that would look like exactly.
I think with the Ursa Major Wave hologram Iron Man, I think that's a pretty good example of it's not as obvious to see through all the pieces and parts and what holds the figure together, like with the Invisible Woman. And it's kind of more just like that. You get it lit up from behind and it just kind of looks, translucent. And I think that would be more along the lines that I would choose to see. So, and I think with Vision that makes sense because we don't have a great Vision other than the Retro Vision, which you're going to be paying. It's like sitting around $100 right now. And we've talked about this.
And I still think that figure could be improved.
Yeah, that's true. Is that on the Retro Spider-Man 2 or no?
Wait, what?
Is he on the Retro Spider-Man,
like
Pizza Spidey?
Pizza body?
Does he have the butterfly joints at the shoulders? Maybe it's the Bucky cap or something like that.
It's not as skinny. It's not as skinny as that Ant-Man, I don't think, because I just had him. Fun fact, this, Dakota, but Vision was one of my wedding cake toppers this last weekend, and I don't remember him looking that weird, so I don't know.
You can tune in on Instagram, see the pictures of the wedding cake.
Ooh, yes.
But yeah, that Vision is really about the only one that's like a classic Vision look. Maybe you want the white one for your West Coast Avengers. Maybe you want the old Toy-Biz. But that one's a little bit small, and it's got a cool cape, but we don't really have a good classic Vision. So I think that phasing one would be a good idea for... And we, like I was going to say, we were talking about, like, do these companies look at the aftermarket of their figures? Because if they would look and see, like, Retro Spider-Man is going for over $110, and a sealed Retro Vision is going for over $100. Hawkeye, crazy. Why wouldn't they re-release those figures to the public at retail so that they make their money back, or they make the money rather than us in the aftermarket being able to resell their figures and make more money? So I don't know. I think we'll get another Vision at some point. I don't know if it'll be the phasing one. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, I'm going to hold off until we get another Vision re-release. So then where are we at? Oh, you're up again?
Yep, I'm up again. So I would love to see a Man Spider. So
Yes.
This is from the Spider-Man Classics line. I've talked about this one several times on the podcast, but I always wanted him. My mom thought he was too scary. I couldn't have him. And I finally got him as an adult. And I'm terrified of him. But, no, I mean, he is kind of creepy looking. He's got that, like, morphing between, obviously, man and spider. So he's got 6 arms. They're, like, clawed. Some of them have these, like, bulgy veins. He's got kind of a monster face. So the problem with him is he's not very articulated. Like his knees are permanently crouched, which I get because I think they had to fit him in the box. But I think Hasbro could do something cool. You could maybe like have various points of his transition, you know? So maybe you could port on arms or off, or they could be human, or they could be spider or part spider, you know? A whole bunch of combinations you could do. So I think that'd be cool. I don't know what that would be as. I mean, I guess he turns into Man Spider in the retro, or in the cartoon, doesn't he? At one point, I think he does.
He does.
So I guess you could, if they just keep going, you know, with retro,
Get
line.
a deluxe.
Yeah.
Deluxe size. Yeah.
I mean that's a deluxe I'd pay for and be like, this is worth it if it was done right.
In addition to the Rhino that you've already paid for.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that could be possible. I feel like I would almost imagine him being more of a Build-A-Figure, which I guess is kind of what all their retros, like those retro deluxes, end up being Build-A-Figures so far. But I mean, they haven't done something with that many pieces. Like Sugar Man is probably the next best example of that, with the 4 arms, where one figure came with 2 arms. And I guess they could do that with, because they usually have the one figure in the wave that doesn't have a Build-A-Figure piece. Just give that figure the extra 2 arms, and then you've got your Man Spider built. So yeah, I think that would be I could see that happening. It'd probably be pretty challenging because that's a lot. Like, that's a completely new figure, head to toe. You're not going to really have much reuse there. There's not really much else to use it with. So somewhat of a long shot, but I don't think quite as long of a shot as a phasing Vision. I don't think anyway. But yeah, after that, we've got somebody I'm surprised that hasn't been done yet, is a Vengeance. So this is essentially Ghost Rider that is a little bit more purple, and for some reason his ribs protrude from his body.
I always thought that was cool.
Yeah, I never really understood why that is, but it is kind of a cool thing that makes him different.
Kind of looks like something from Spawn.
Yeah, it does look pretty Spawn-like. Spawn and Ghost Rider would probably be pretty good friends. The ToyBiz one came with a bike. I think this is probably the coolest bike that ToyBiz made. They made, like, there was the 2 Ghost Rider bikes. There's the Logan bike that I've got in the background. But this one's just essentially like, I don't know, some skeleton of a demon with flaming wheels. Pretty cool. It mounts to the wall if you want it to. You can put your tacks in the wall and he can be driving up the wall. This one's got translucent fire coming off the back of his head. His neck is translucent fire. Spikes everywhere.
That is a pretty cool looking toy, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the giant spikes on his shoulder pads.
And you don't really even notice the ball joints so bad. Like, it kind of blends in with the purple.
Yeah. I mean, with the shoulder pads for sure hide the ball joints at the shoulder. And then, yeah, the purple, like, jeans that he's wearing cover up the ball joints well, or just, like, hide it. But yeah, he's got, like, skull chains wrapped around his wrists, around his torso. Be a cool
Hey,
one for Hasbro.
that's a pretty detailed toy for
Yeah,
what, 20-ish years ago.
Yeah, jaws articulated. I don't think I would be surprised if we saw this come out with a motorcycle. I don't think Hasbro would do that for us, just because I think those motorcycles are probably a thing of the past now. It's going to be too expensive, where they wouldn't do that unless maybe if it was like a PulseCon exclusive. But even that, I feel like they've got a lot of other more popular options to give us at PulseCon. But I could definitely see getting just a single Vengeance by himself. But I don't know. Looking at this figure more now, it's going to be pretty hard to top this figure because, I mean, ToyBiz was much better at their sculpting, although their joints maybe were a little more loose and harder to keep in positions. Like this one's ankles are too loose that he would definitely fall over with, like, even trying to get him to stand up on the desk here. He won't stay. But the detail on him is incredible.
Mm-hmm. And this brings me into Sabretooth, another villain. Now mine, if you're watching online, mine only has one arm. Dakota's has two arms. But it's kind of that classic Jim Lee style where he's got like the tiger stripes, the orange and brown, the fur. Pretty well sculpted face, I think. Mm-hmm. I think it looks cool. It's almost statue-like. But yeah, the arms are kind of poorly designed, I think, on the shoulders.
Yeah.
But I think Hasbro could do a cool updated version just because I like the Apocalypse Wolverine, or not Wolverine, Sabretooth. I think he's a little small. So I think if you can make him bigger and then make him look a little more like this one.
The Apocalypse Wave Wolverine?
Yeah.
Not the Age of Apocalypse.
The Apocalypse Wave Sabretooth. Right.
Yeah.
So I think he could be updated and be pretty cool. That's kind of what I was hoping for when they announced the newer Sabretooth. Maybe my brain like heard Sabretooth and was like, ooh. And then it was like the one that I think is the first appearance, but kind of goofy looking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one that I would really like. I think people, I could see that. Do you think that one's possible?
100%. If they don't give us a...
Would you say as a VHS?
I think it's probably more likely as a VHS, but I would rather it be a Build-A-Figure. Just because, like I've said before on the podcast, like the best Sabretooths I've seen are when they do a custom of the Caliban. So maybe like a deluxe or something like that. But yeah, because the size of the Caliban custom, I think is perfect for a Sabretooth. It's probably a little closer to this ToyBiz than like, I think, I don't know, because I really hope they don't give us a reissue of that Apocalypse Wave Sabretooth, because like you said, that one's a little too small. It doesn't quite work. But then are they going to resculpt something on a similar scale as the Age of Apocalypse Sabretooth? Because I think that one's probably closer. Yeah. Let's see.
So I'm holding up the Rhino next to Sabretooth, and I mean, he's a good head shorter, but I mean, it's a good size.
All right, I got Caliban back here. So take Caliban, put him next. Caliban's like half a head taller. Put him back to back. Yeah, about a head taller. But I mean, Caliban's head's pretty small, but like I've seen people sculpt up the fur on the back. I feel like you could almost take the back of Ursa Major and put it on there. Drill out a hole on the back of Caliban, and that gets you off to a pretty good start. Caliban's got some goofy fingers, but his fingers are also kind of clawed like Sabretooth.
Black.
Yeah. So.
Or brown.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a ton of... I mean, he's even got... Like, Sabretooth's got the, like, two-toe feet, right?
Yeah.
I think in the comic, or not in the comic, maybe in the comics, in the cartoon. Maybe he's just got the regular boot type foot, but... Yeah, I would like a bigger Wolverine than what we have for Apocalypse, and then whatever that older Wolverine or not Wolverine, but the older Sabretooth. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's supposed to be more modern, but I'm not a big fan of that one either.
Yeah.
But yeah, new Sabretooth I think is like almost, it's a guarantee that we're going to get that like animated Jim Lee type of Sabretooth. It's just a question of how long, and is Hasbro still going to be making Marvel Legends by then?
Oh, shots fired by Dakota.
But no, I think it's it's an inevitability. Like, I wouldn't sweat too much that you don't have one yet. I mean, I really want one now, but it's coming. I hope it just comes before the prices keep going up and he's going to cost us so much. But it's for sure. I'm going to say it right now. Sabretooth's coming. But the next figure that I'm a little surprised that we don't have yet, but I think is coming in an actual Walgreens exclusive, is going to be Blackheart. So I think he would fit in well with what they're doing right now with like Jigsaw and Baron Zemo. They kind of have that villains wave coming through Walgreens right now. We haven't gotten an updated Blackheart yet. He was in the Marvel Legends trading cards, one of the few that they made a card of that they don't also have a figure of. So that's kind of what leads me to think that this one's coming down the line. I mean, for being ToyBiz though, this one is another one like Vengeance. Super good detail. The tail is huge. I don't even know how this fit in the box when I got it, honestly. Maybe it was in there sideways. But his head's got all these like black, I don't know, tendril type things coming off the back end, like hair. Bumps and ridges all over him. His feet are a little bit hard to pose him because they're kind of like that same style of feet as Goliath and the Gargoyles have, where he's like up on his toes. So it's hard to pose like that, but I think that's another one that people really want a make of from Hasbro. And yeah, I really think that one is going to be coming as a Walgreens exclusive. Just my assumption.
I would be curious to see it, but yeah, I'd like to see a new one. I don't know. Yeah. I almost feel like they might have to make him kind of small if he's a Walgreens exclusive.
True. Yeah. I mean, he would definitely have to take up a lot of the box. I mean, but the thing is with Blackheart, you don't really need any accessories to come with him. If you made him big enough, like make him take up the whole box, probably have to have his tail as a separate piece that you pour it on afterwards, and maybe they use like either the Build-A-Figure lizard tail, or maybe they just make us a new tail. But if they had one with bendy wire, that would be pretty cool. This one has bendy wire in the tail, so you can kind of move it around a little bit. But yeah, I would say just fill the box up with Blackheart. I don't need extra hands or accessories, no heads. Just give me a bigger figure.
No cheap blast effects that you keep reusing.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
Because it would be cool to get some like fire effects with him, but then at that point I would rather just get my Blackheart figure and find fire effects. Other figures come with fire effects. People are going to customize. You could use the Batman, like Azrael Batman 2-pack. That one comes with a big fire effect. So yeah, that'd be how I would want to see it done. Like I said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll never see another Blackheart, and you need to go find this ToyBiz one. That one's going to be one that stays in my collection. I don't think he's going to be sold anytime soon. So I think that is going to wrap it up for our
that's quite a few more than when we were first talking about this episode. That's a lot more than I thought we'd have.
Yeah, I think originally when we were going to do it, we were thinking about like figures that Hasbro has never done. And some of these figures Hasbro has remade, like Sabretooth has been made several times, but not in the style we want. Same with like Black Panther, Wonder Man. They've been made, but not in the same style.
But like, I think in general, if this wave was announced, most collectors would be excited about it.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think, and most of the figures on here, I would probably pick up. I would maybe pass on a. Let's see. I don't think I would need necessarily a Baron von Strucker. It depends on Zemo, because I'm pretty happy with the Zemo that we just got.
No, me too.
But, I mean, and Mandarin too. Like, I know a lot of people like Mandarin, but I don't think I've read anything with Mandarin in it. I didn't actually watch a ton of the cartoon when it was on, so I could pass on him. Doombots I would pick up. Luke Cage would depend on how he looks, what the price is at. Mach 1 Iron Man I would definitely pick up. Goliath for sure. Yeah.
It's got the main NECA sword. That looks kind of cool.
It's not too long for him?
I don't know. I mean, it's long, but...
Yeah.
I don't try to trick me, Dakota. I know you like big swords.
I do.
With a figure. But yeah. Wow. Hasbro, we know you're listening. Make it happen. Or Dakota will have some choice words on our next episode.
Yeah, I think next episode we can talk more about Hasbro and what they're doing currently, and kind of give our thoughts on the state of action figures at this time. And so we did a look back now. Next we'll do maybe a look forward. So until then, make sure you're following us on Instagram. It's at The Strong Collectors. Go check out the picture of Jordan's wedding cake with the Marvel Legends as cake toppers. The wedding issue of Vision and Scarlet Witch behind it, given to him by a dear friend. You can make sure whatever podcast form you're listening to this on, if you're on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, make sure you're subscribing, liking, sharing it, posting it other places. Tell people about us so that we can grow. We want to get you some more content. We're thinking about hopefully going to the New York Comic-Con. So if you want to help us get to New York, I don't know, send us a message and we'll give you our Venmo. You can send us some money, get us a plane ticket, and we can maybe get you some more exclusive content. But until next time, stay strong.